Imagine finding out your husband, the man you share a home and children with, is not only a liar, but also your blood relative. And worse, he knew, the whole time. This is the story of how one woman's innocent curiosity about her family roots uncovered a horrifying betrayal, one that may be connected to far more sinister crimes than anyone first realized. Sarah Mitchell was raised in fragments. Her mother died young. Her father, if you could call him that, drifted in and out of her life like smoke. She grew up bouncing between relatives, group homes, and a handful of foster placements. Stability wasn't something she ever really knew. So when she met Michael, he felt like peace. Michael was older, 13 years her senior, calm, grounded, the kind of man who looked you straight in the eye and actually listened. They met at a family wedding. Distant cousins of some sort. She wasn't sure, and no one explained much. But they hit it off. He was warm, supportive, patient. They started talking, then dating, then living together. Within 2 years they were married, and soon after they had 2 children. To the outside world, Michael was a doting husband. Involved. Responsible. Always the one with a solution when things went wrong. Sarah told her friends she finally had what she'd been missing her whole life, a family of her own. But behind the warmth was a strange pattern. Michael never talked much about his side of the family. No visits. No photos. When she asked about his parents, he'd brush it off. "We're not close." Or, "They've passed." That wasn't the only thing he discouraged. Sarah always wanted to know more about her roots, her mother's side, her ethnic background, medical history. But Michael would always deflect. "The past doesn't matter," he'd say. "We're building something new." It was subtle, gentle even, but always firm. It started with a birthday gift. One that, ironically, came from Michael himself. "Let's finally solve the mystery of your family tree," he joked, handing her a commercial DNA test kit in a wrapped box. Sarah was touched. It felt thoughtful. She'd always wanted to know if the rumors about her native ancestry were true, or if the migraine she struggled with ran in the family. She submitted the test, forgot about it, and waited. 4 weeks later, the email came through. "Your results are ready." She clicked. Ethnicity breakdown, nothing shocking. Scandinavian, German, some trace Native American. But then she scrolled to the DNA matches. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. She just stared into space as the weight of her entire marriage crushed her from the inside out. That night, she confronted Michael. He didn't argue. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. "I always knew there'd be a chance you'd find out," he said. Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" He looked at her, with those same calm, grounded eyes, and said, "You needed someone. I was there for you. That's what matters." It wasn't love. It wasn't fate. It was grooming, orchestrated over years. A quiet predator who knew exactly what she needed to hear. Michael had targeted her, gained her trust, got close enough to control her. She took the kids and fled the next morning, staying with a friend across town. Then, she called the police. The detective on the case sounded sympathetic, but non-committal. "Unless there's evidence of abuse or non-consensual activity, we can't prosecute someone for marrying a relative if both parties are adults." It felt like a punch to the gut. Because Michael knew. He withheld biological truth from someone who trusted him. Built a life with her under false pretenses. That wasn't just betrayal, it was emotional incest. Psychological manipulation. A crime of the deepest kind. But in the eyes of the law, it was murky at best. She filed a restraining order. Police went to serve the order. Michael was gone. He hadn't shown up to work. His phone was off. The family computer was bank accounts, emptied. But in his office drawer, hidden behind tax records, they found one item, a flash drive. Encrypted. Police cracked it within hours. Inside were digital scans of letters, not to Sarah, but to another girl. A girl who had disappeared 12 years earlier. One image showed a smiling 12-year-old, wearing a necklace that matched a missing persons report from 2011. The last file on the drive? A journal entry dated the night before Sarah and Michael met. It ended with one chilling line. "She looks just like her mother. I wonder if she remembers me." That's when detectives realized something even more disturbing. Sarah might not have been his only victim. And the girl in the photo? She may not just be connected to Michael. She might be connected to Sarah. Sarah couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the girl. The child from the photo on the flash drive, same brown hair, same crooked smile, same necklace. The file said her name was Lydia West. She went missing in 2011. Age 12. Last seen in a small Oklahoma town about 100 miles from where Sarah had grown up. There was no family listed on the report. Only a neighbor who had reported her missing after she didn't show up to school for 2 days. Sarah stared at the photo again. The more she looked, the more she saw herself. Not just a resemblance. A connection. Like they weren't just strangers, but something more. The police were now taking the case seriously. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She had no siblings. Or so she'd been told. Her mother died in childbirth. She'd never known any extended family. But what if that wasn't true? Detectives dug deeper. Her birth certificate listed her mother as Carol Mitchell. Her father? Unknown. But hospital records from the time of her mother's death, pulled from a dusty archive, listed a next of kin who had signed off on the release of her body. Name: William West. Sarah felt like the floor fell away. Michael's last name wasn't Thomas. That was a middle name. His legal name, hidden in old employment and military records, was William Michael West. He hadn't just married his niece. There was now strong suspicion he may have also fathered a child with his own daughter. But there was one massive hole in the case. Where was Lydia? She was still listed as missing. No confirmed sightings. No death certificate. And Sarah, reeling from shock, began to question everything about her own past. Michael's manipulation wasn't just personal. It was systematic. He had inserted himself into her life at the perfect moment, shortly after her last foster family placement had ended. She'd been 18. Alone. Vulnerable. The only question that remained was, why? Why had he done all of this? Was it an obsession? A delusion of building the perfect family? Or was there something even worse? The search for Lydia escalated. They cross-referenced missing girls who resembled her from the past decade. They searched public records, school enrollments, even church groups in remote areas of Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. Then, one tip broke the silence. A woman in a small Missouri town called the tip line. She worked as a clerk in a diner and said she had seen a teenage girl several years ago who matched Lydia's photo, working as a dishwasher under the name Lee. She said the girl was withdrawn, always wore long sleeves, even in summer. She had scars on her wrists and refused to speak above a whisper. But one thing stood out. She used to hum this weird song, like a lullaby. Said her daddy used to sing it to her every night. Gave me the chills. The melody? The clerk hummed it over the phone. Sarah recognized it immediately. It was the same lullaby Michael used to hum to their kids when they were babies. Detectives rushed to Missouri. But the girl was long gone. Left the job years ago. No forwarding address. The name, Lee, was likely fake. But the timeline matched. And so did her age. It was possible that Michael had kept Lydia hidden for years, and that she eventually escaped. If she was still alive, she was likely hiding. And now, there was a new question haunting Sarah's mind. If he could do this to me, if he could do this to Lydia, what else is he capable of? Because a second flash drive was discovered later that week, hidden in a bag in a storage unit under Michael's name. Its contents? Unlabeled. Encrypted. But when opened, it contained hundreds of photos. Many of them were Sarah. Some were Lydia. But others, were of girls Sarah had never seen before. The story was no longer about a husband betraying his wife. It had become a hunt for a possible serial predator, one who had hidden in plain sight for over 2 decades, operating through manipulation, false identities, and incestuous control. Authorities widened the investigation. The FBI was contacted. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children opened a task force. Sarah was placed under protective custody, and so were her children. Because no one knew if Michael was planning to return, or if someone else was helping him stay hidden. Sarah received a package at her temporary residence. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Old. Damaged. It showed a newborn baby in a hospital bassinet. Written on the back, in Michael's handwriting. "This time, I'll do it right." The hospital photo shook Sarah more than she cared to admit. That handwriting, the sharp slant, the capital letters, the habit of crossing his sevens, it was unmistakably Michael's. And yet, she had never seen that baby before. Who was it? Where was it taken? And how had he managed to send it while under investigation and in hiding? It was clear he had help. Investigators traced the postmark to a small town in Kansas. A security camera at the mailing station caught a blurry figure in a hoodie dropping off the envelope. Too short to be Michael. The image was run through enhancement software, but yielded no clear ID. One of the analysts suggested the person might be female. The idea chilled Sarah. What if Michael had more victims still loyal to him? Groomed, brainwashed, and convinced they were part of something sacred? The FBI task force called this theory a closed family loop. A predator creates a web of dependency and emotional control so strong, victims don't flee, they protect him. Sarah agreed to a cognitive interview, a process that reawakens lost memories using timeline regression and emotional triggers. It was intense. Exhausting. But it worked. She remembered something new. A woman, maybe late teens, lived with them for 2 months when Sarah was 20. Michael claimed she was a distant cousin, down on her luck. She had helped with the kids, cooked meals, and stayed mostly quiet. Sarah remembered her name, Rachel. But Rachel wasn't in any photos. Not in any holiday pictures, social media, or texts. Like she had been erased. Investigators searched the name. No DMV records. No social security number. But they found a Jane Doe listed in an old missing persons case out of Arizona. Facial reconstruction matched. The woman's real name was Emily R. Lake. She disappeared in 2010. The pieces were coming together. Michael had a pattern. Find young women who were isolated, abandoned, or vulnerable. Offer them safety. Then erase their identity and make them dependent. Rachel, or Emily, had stayed just long enough to vanish. And now, she might be the one helping him from the shadows. Meanwhile, forensic techs finally cracked the second flash drive. It held audio recordings. Some were conversations. Others were journal entries recorded in Michael's voice. "Lydia still fights me. She doesn't understand yet. But she will." Sarah did. It just took time. You can't build a family from strangers. They have to be part of you. They have to carry your blood. The audio grew increasingly unhinged. Rambling monologues about purity, bloodlines, and starting over. One entry stood out. Michael mentioned a cabin. Remote. Near a lake. He talked about preparing it for the return. That was the break they needed. A location match was found on a property deed registered under one of Michael's aliases in rural Arkansas. Surveillance teams moved in quietly. They found the cabin. Inside were 3 bedrooms. A wall covered in newspaper clippings. A baby crib. Several dolls. And a photo album. Not of Sarah. Not of Lydia. Of another child. No older than 6. There was no sign of Michael. But they did find Rachel, or rather, Emily. She was alive. Malnourished. Disoriented. Still calling him Father. She said she had been waiting for him to come back and that he had gone to bring home the new one. Sarah, watching the interview live feed, broke down. She realized he wasn't just trying to recreate a family. He was building one. From the inside out. Starting with her. Then Lydia. Then the next generation. DNA samples from Emily confirmed something horrifying. She had given birth. The child in the photo album? Likely hers. And Michael's. This was no longer a story of incest, identity manipulation, or abuse. This was a multi-generational cycle of coercion and control. And Michael had planned every step. The question now wasn't just where he was. It was, how many others were there? Sarah made a public plea. She appeared on national news, broke her anonymity, and begged other survivors to come forward. Within a week, 6 women contacted authorities with stories of brief relationships with a man who used Michael's various aliases. One had a daughter. Another said he used to talk about having a family he lost. The FBI was now on a full-scale manhunt. Sarah was working with trauma specialists and law enforcement consultants to document her story and create a psychological profile of Michael for internal training. Her goal was simple: never let this happen to anyone else. She also started a foundation to support victims of familial grooming and long-term abuse. It launched with one motto: when the people who should protect you are the ones who harm you, we'll be the ones who stand by you. Michael West remains on the FBI's most wanted list. As for Sarah, her life will never be the same. But she says she sleeps better knowing the truth. Because the worst crime is not what they did. It's how long they kept you from knowing who you really are. Groomers often create false families or tight-knit environments that discourage outside contact. If someone in your life tries to isolate you, redefine your identity, or erase your past, seek help. Keep personal records. Ask questions about your own history. And remember, any love that demands silence, secrecy, or sacrifice of your identity is not love. It's control.